And welcome everybody to the second race of the 2019 Formula One season at Bahrain. And sunny desert, of course, we love Bahrain. Nothing like getting a bit of sand in your pipe hole. And it was a fantastic race. It was thrilling. It was everything we've come to expect from Formula One. It was windy, and then that made for a very unpredictable race. A very surprise result, as we will discuss, and as you already probably know, otherwise you wouldn't be tuning in. So yeah, started off with the whole weekend being completely dominated by a French pastry, which surprised me. And at the end of it, the French pastry kind of like just broke down. It was like the fresh cream that was inhabiting his soul suddenly oozed out all over the track, and then just destroyed the actual pastry itself, which was a surprise. Of course, I am talking about Leclerc. And, you know, that's the best analogy I can give, really, for the race. It turned out then that Hamilton managed to win the race with rather a lucky come-through, although I have to say he drove well, considering his tyres were completely messed up. And he managed to preserve his dignity and not get involved in a crash in the early laps, which he certainly seemed like he was going to at one point, as he was being overtaken by both Ferraris and, well, trying to get ahead of the Ferraris and being overtaken by Vettel and Bottas. So all in all, it was quite a remarkable race, plenty of action to discuss. And of course, here with me is Ciao Fabio. Ciao Fabio. Have you almost committed Harry, or are you still okay?
Remarkable race, you said? Fuck off.
Yes, remarkable.
Yeah. Seriously, fuck off. That was, yeah, I don't know. I spent the last 30 minutes of the race with my head between my hands. I couldn't fucking believe what I was watching. It was brutal. I got to tell you, it was brutal. Toto Wolff, after the race, was interviewed by the Sky Italian team, and he, I don't know the English way of saying that, but he said, I mean, they asked him, the race was, what we thought of the result, and he said something, big luck. Well, actually said grosso culo, which means big ass in Italian. And big ass is when you have a lot of luck. It's kind of And yeah, I mean, I think it sums up the race. Mercedes, but let me tell you one thing. Mercedes were very lucky because they made everything wrong. I mean, they had the wrong strategy. The car was slower. So Mercedes was very lucky in winning, but Ferrari was not unlucky in losing. Because, I mean, I got to be really honest, that's not being unlucky. If there was a mistake being made by Vettel and there was a failure in the engine by Leclerc, so that's not unlucky. But those other guys were really lucky. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, I really felt for the French pastry lad there. I did think that having his car break down like that was very unfortunate, considering he dominated the weekend in the way he had, which was very, very impressive.
Yes.
However, it does bring us back to what we were talking about last week, of course, being that Ferrari may have an overheating problem, in which case that still isn't resolved. That question is still not resolved. I know it may seem like it's unlikely that they would still be continuing with the same issues. But as I said last week, if there is an issue there, it's not going to get sorted out in one or two races. So
I'm not that positive about that. I mean, well, a couple of things. First of all, what we saw in Barcelona was actually happened on the track. And what we said about, last race, that, Australia is kind of a weird track, is not really telling, I mean, that was actually, well, I wouldn't say confirmed, but if the Barcelona test had some value, the Bahrain race showed what happened in the tests. I'm not sure. I'm not sure it was an overheating problem. It seemed to be that it was a failure during the race. It seems to be that it was a failure of the hybrid system.
DH, yeah.
Yeah, DH. Actually, there's been some news, from the Ferrari team, and we all know that it's really tricky, to listen to what the teams have to say when something breaks down. But apparently, it wasn't the H part; it was actually the thermic, the infernal combustion engine, which one part of it broke down. Specifically, it was a cylinder which wasn't working. I don't know if that's true. It might make sense from only from the point of view that apparently they also had a fuel problem at the end. So if you have a cylinder misfiring, that might be, but it might be a good excuse. I don't know if it's true or not, but it makes sense anyway.
Okay, well, I'd say a couple of things. Firstly, I don't think Barcelona would necessarily have shown up the heating problem to the outside world, because, of course, they can control the power levels that they run the engine at, etc., to control the level of the engine. So that, for a start, I'm not convinced that we have returned to Barcelona. Or if we have returned to Barcelona, it's at the expense again of power. And if that's the case, then a breakdown such as we had would be consistent with that. I dare say they've got it a lot better. And I also think that Mercedes may have opened their cooling up as well in some respects. So that would explain the difference in the increased gap, shall we say. However, again, I'm not convinced yet that we've seen the answer. So, and that's the first thing. And the second, that's about heating, of course, or cooling, I should say. And then the second thing is that this track is not also representative of the season's tracks either, because of the amount of dust and you get on the circuit. It does mean that tyre wear and performance is completely different to how it is in most circuits. So we haven't really got to a circuit yet where we can know how the rest of the season is going to go. And again, I would say it's not till China that we get that. And then if China is a wet weekend, we won't even know there. So China has to be dry before we will really know what the results are. So let's just wait and see there as to whether Ferrari can get this problem, get their reliability problems under control. Because, of course, if they leave it too long before doing that, they're going to have big problems. That's the first. That's the two things I'd say. It still bodes brilliantly for Ferrari, because, of course, they can always turn the power down, whereas Mercedes can't turn the power up. So cold races, Ferrari are just going to waltz away if they do, in fact, have this heating problem. So it's still
both. No, I agree. Let me just say, I probably was misunderstood. When I said about the Barcelona thing, I was just referring to the difference in performances that we saw from the two cars. That's the point I was making. I don't know about the heating problem. I honestly do not know if they have an heating problem. The news from Barcelona at the time of the failure in the Ferrari were about the turbo part. And again, I'm not really sure it was about an heating problem or not. But having said that, I'm not sure. So any news is okay. I have nothing that I can lay my hand on. The track in Bahrain, it was sandy and windy, and you're right. But I would say that it's a little bit more representative of a normal track. That this is everything that I was pointing out when I say it's more representative. It's a weird track. I love the track, by the way. It's a very nice one. I think it's brilliant. So yeah,
it's good on the games. I'll say that it's a great driver's track. I don't think it's a great spectators track.
I mean, listen, man, a track where you can actually have a corner where you can overtake people on the outside, in my book, is a fucking great track. So, yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, that's great. I mean, again, I feel that both our hearts go out for Leclerc, who, who suffered majorly, and who drove fantastically well against Zeb. And of course, Zeb was the one that made the mistake, right? I mean, again, that's unbelievable that he's back in that pattern again from last year, where he's under stress, he's in a mistake-generating corner. Yeah. And he's the one that makes the mistake, right?
Yeah, I mean, his car was less on point than Leclerc's car. It was struggling way more to have the pace that it was having compared to Leclerc. I mean, I was the thing which was to me was way more astonishing in the whole race were the first 2 laps. When Leclerc was passed and he was actually third, and in 2 laps, it just said, you know what? Fuck it. This is my pace. Fuck everybody else. And he trumped over, Bottas, and he just, roll over Vettel like there was no fucking tomorrow. That was fucking impressive, considering that he overtook those 2 persons, which, they're not slow guys on slow cars, without the DRS. The DRS wasn't even in place when he overtook them. So that
it was when he took Zeb. I'm pretty sure he had DRS when he overtook Vettel. Yeah.
Oh yeah, maybe. But I mean, still, it was amazing because.
Oh, still great driving. Yeah.
But, so that was the moment where I said, okay, this is going to be really interesting because that guy has been fast all through the weekend, and now he's got a pace. This is going to be really funny, and they had everything on point. The pit stop times were 2 point. I think the slowest one was 2.3 seconds, which was amazing. 2.1, 2.3, 2.2, incredible. The tactic was brilliant, and then fuck me happened. So yeah, it was really disappointing. But.
Yeah. I mean, he lost a lot of power from his engine in the last 15 laps, and was a sitting duck basically.
Yeah.
I mean, he got lucky, obviously, that the safety car came out in terms of the safety car coming out with the Renaults, who were just so unfortunate. I mean, if you couldn't write a story like Renault if you tried, because they really deserved to get points. They both drove pretty well. Certainly the best amongst the midfield, and other than maybe Verstappen, and they definitely deserve points there. Yeah. But of course, both of them breaking down at the same corner on the same lap, you just got to feel for them.
Yeah, and for different reasons, because I mean, I don't know what happened to Hülkenberg, but there were pieces of his engine being shot out from the exhaust, while Ricciardo just. The electric part just fucked up.
Yeah, again, we don't know why. Either way, it's a terrible sign for Renault. And again, if they're pushing their engine too hard, then that's not a great sign for half the field because McLaren are also going to start suffering quite badly.
McLaren did a very good race. McLaren did a very good race. I was really impressed by that guy Lando Norris. Sainz too was on a good pace. He had this mishap at the very first lap, but I think it was on a roll. But even his car at a certain point, I don't know if they decided to retire the car or he had a problem. But they just retired the car. He wasn't gaining on the other.
Well, I think he had damage early on, had to pit, and then he was always behind the 8 ball. And I think he gave up a little bit, to be honest.
Yeah.
But Norris, again, what a fantastic race.
Wow. Yeah.
He's so relaxed. He's unbelievable, really. So, again, I'm just super impressed because coming into the season, I thought, well, he's a very talented kid, etc., etc., but it'll take him a little while to get into racing at this level, but no, he's right there. He's giving it to all the experienced guys. Yeah. This is the second race he's beaten Sainz, and Science is no pushover.
Yeah,
So,
no, I agree with you. I think that both Ferrari and McLaren, choose the right rookie. I mean, the right young guy. The ones which made the really they got the shitty one is Red Bull with Gasly. I mean, Gasly is ghastly. If pardon the pun. I mean, that guy is terrible. I no fucking idea what the fuck is wrong with the guy, but it seems to me that it's I mean, it's
well, I think he's suffering from being Verstappen's teammate. And in very much the same way people used to suffer from being Schumacher's teammate.
well,
the team set the cars up for Verstappen's driving style, and that's it. You don't get a choice. The car is designed for a specific type of driver, and if you're not that type of driver, you're going to suffer. So personally,
yeah, I mean, there might be that, but still, it was driving. I mean, it was racing with the Toro Rosso and the Force India, in the back of the field.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
he said he couldn't get the tires switched on, so that would explain why he's at the back of the field. But again, if you can't get the feel from your car, then you're not going to be able to keep your tires switched on. If you can't do that, then it's a problem. So, and that can be just down to driving style. So that would be my guess. He will sort himself out because they will eventually. I mean, they won't want to keep repeating that, so they're going to have to give him some kind of different balance, whether it means changing the rake of the car or whether it means just working the rear tires harder.
Well, yeah, I mean,
softer front end. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's either that or they're gonna dump him because it's Red Bull, right? I mean, they do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, they do. They do.
Yeah.
And again, it's interesting to mention as well that George Russell is also outperforming Kubica, which is also very impressive for a rookie and doing it consistently as well, even though he's in the worst car.
Yeah, I mean, Kubica, the old Kubica thing. I mean, I'm sorry for the guy, but I mean, that was my impression from the beginning. It was more like a PR stunt than really. So yeah.
Yeah, that can be Williams' thing as well, depending on how much money the drivers are bringing.
Right. I mean, they needed something. They need, the piece of news to be put in the paper. And I mean, I can't blame them, to be fair.
Yeah, absolutely. They're a private team and they really need the money. And they lost all of the Stroll money. So, of course, they're going to suffer this year.
Right.
But I don't think the way they've handled Paddy Lowe is exactly the right thing to do.
No.
But there you go. If he designed a car which is that slow, then maybe, we don't know the ins and outs of that either.
Yeah.
I would also mention as well, I think this is Stroll's first bad race for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
And mainly because he got caught in the wrong position on the first lap.
Yeah.
So, yeah, maybe we can point a few fingers and say, yeah, that's the kind of Stroll that we would expect as a rookie, as a kind of a junior, one of the junior drivers.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it was a little surprising to me. I expected him to back out of being behind Magnussen, who he went into the side of, and he didn't. He just kept his foot in. So
yeah,
I was a little surprised by that. So that shows frustration, and maybe things at Racing Point aren't quite as good as we thought.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, there were other things. The other thing which I've seen is consistent with previous race is the TV coverage. I think it's. I said that before, and I'm saying now it's brilliant because they show battle in the back, which are really intense and interesting, and they keep the camera on that, and I love it, by the way. And the other thing which I want to point out is that it's been 50 years, but Alpha is fourth in the championship. So there is that too. I mean, it's
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. Although you say Alpha, of course,
Yeah. But I mean, now it's Alpha. So that's
the. You say Alpha, of course, but
yeah. Well, it's a little bit more Alpha than last year.
Okay, I guess the back end is still Ferrari, though, right?
The back end is the Ferrari. I mean, the frame is completely different. But yeah, I mean, you gotta piss with the cock you got. So that's this is as much alpha as you can get right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could.
Yeah, and no, I can guarantee you, Raikkonen will be pissing with that cock as much as he can.
Oh yeah.
As I heard. I think his post-race interview was pretty funny.
Yeah, I haven't listened to that.
He was very talkative, so
Oh,
it was a
great.
good sign. Yeah, really. It was like, oh, well, the wind, oh, this and that, I think he enjoyed himself anyway for once.
Yeah.
That's quite nice. Yeah, okay. So it leaves the championship in a very interesting place in that both Mercedes drivers at the top of the championship. Vettel, like probably with his head in his hands, crying a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't seen an interview after, other than he was very flat and disappointed that he'd made a mistake.
Yeah, he said it was his mistake, and I don't think there was too much to say actually. And it was sorry for Leclerc, and yeah, he said it was my mistake. It just it was caught by surprise. That might be the case, but
come on now.
Well,
I mean, that's what I don't get, right? Because that particular corner, A, it had been talked about because of the tailwind, and C, it's designed in order to spin cars.
No, I
so either he didn't know it was designed to spin a car, or he didn't know about the tailwind.
No, I mean, I'm not trying to find excuses. He said it was his mistake. I think that what he meant when he said it was caught by surprise was that the previous lap, there was something like that happening, and Hamilton wasn't as fast in the exit of the corner as it was, the second time. Yeah. So I think that was the thing which caught him by surprise. Still, it was his mistake. It didn't make he didn't try to hide it in any way, shape, or form. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm surprised in that it's a rookie mistake. That's what I'm surprised about. It's four-time world championship, doesn't make that mistake.
Right.
And you can only drive the car you've got. And this is again an example this year where he's overdriving.
Yeah. I mean,
that's a bad sign for me. It means he's seriously pissed off by Leclerc going past him. Seriously pissed off.
Listen, we must. I think that we also have to be really fair. That in saying that it is true that Vettel has made several mistakes, and this one was a big mistake. But, and I think you will agree with me, that I still have to find a driver which makes a mistake and pays so much for any little mistakes that he makes. Because it's fucking insane. I mean, in Germany, he got a mistake and he crashes the car there. Okay,
over here, gravel track. Yeah.
Yeah. Last year, it was always on the outside in a situation that, and I'm sure you agree with me, usually is the other car which spins around and he spins around. This time, he got a flat spot and the vibration is so bad that it loses, the front. I mean, those are his mistakes, period. I'm not looking to any excuse, but fuck me, he pays every mistakes really dearly. So he's a little bit unlucky, in that aspect. Not in the fact that he's not making mistakes, but he pays a huge consequences on every bloody mistakes that he makes. It seems to me, it's fucking incredible. So, and I think that gets at you, because say, okay, I cannot. Well, usually you cannot make any mistake, but if I make a little one, it's like everybody is trying to get me, and it actually happens. The worst thing which can happen happens.
Yeah, I would agree with that in terms of.
It must be really frustrating.
Hugely frustrating for him because the car is such a knife edge in order to get the advantage over Mercedes.
Right.
But to me, that's part of it. That's what Lewis did really great in yesterday's race. Right? He didn't overdrive his car. He had people passing him left and right. Both of the second race, his teammate and Leclerc passing him, right? And not Leclerc and Vettel passing him, and he didn't push it. He even had a battle with Verstappen and made sure not to crash into Verstappen, made sure to get through the corner safely, even if it meant letting him go for a little while.
Yeah.
So again, the maturity of Hamilton's race yesterday, I was so impressed. And then to come through and win it at the end, yes, he was lucky, but then he put himself in a position to be lucky.
No, I agree with you. I said it at the beginning. Again, I don't want to stress back the same point, but for example, I was actually impressed with Vettel, during the weekend, especially up to the qualifying. He had problems in the qualifying. He had to go in Q3 and make one lap to make it good, because of problems that.
Yeah.
I mean, and if you're a racing driver, you know that you only have got one lap to make it good. It's very frustrating, and it seems to be was reacting really well. The start was good, and then it fucked up
ish. I mean, through the practices, he was suffering, and what I thought Vettel did really well is get everything together on the Saturday for qualifying.
Yeah, that's what I meant. The reaction.
Hang on. But one lap in Q3, fair enough. I mean, that's what the top guys can do, right? Lewis knows that he can just put a lap together whenever he needs it. Right? It's not a question of how many times does he get a chance to do it and can he bed himself in properly. It's I need to go and put the lap down now. Let's go and do it because.
I mean, yes and no. I mean. If you make, if you have the chance to make one more lap, it's different than going there and say, listen, whatever the fuck happens, this is the lap, because you don't know what you can find. I mean, you can find the debris, you can find someone slower. I mean,
there's that side.
The pressure is a little bit more, and I was really happy because
the pressure is more, but then. That's what these guys get paid the big bucks for.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
taking the pressure on and actually doing it when it's needed, right? So, yeah, I'm not super impressed by that particular point. What I'm impressed with Vettel in is that he managed to get his car to the point where it was so good on qualifying day, right? Because through the practices, it really wasn't. It just wasn't anywhere close to Leclerc. He was really struggling to put in a single lap to get close to Leclerc's consistency.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm, hugely impressed that he managed to drag something out of the bag. Now, again, whether that's them just turning the Ferrari up, and he couldn't do that through the practices for various reasons, which is what I would suspect at the moment, of course, because I'm still going with my theory that it's a heating issue or a cooling issue, rather. Then, again, I'm impressed that he could at least do that and pull it out of the bag, whereas clearly the Mercedes can't do that. And this bodes amazingly well for Ferrari, because when we get to Europe, if it's a cold season in Europe, then Ferrari are odds on to take every single race. Doesn't matter whether they're suited to the circuit or not. So I think they've played a blinder this year by actually packing the car up the way they have in order to give it such a good top speed and good aero. I really do. I think it's going to be an exciting season for that. A little disappointing because it's either going to be win or bust for them. But that's my prediction anyway, and we'll see whether that comes true.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
You haven't complained about the tires yet. I'm waiting.
Yes, sure. Yeah, well, okay, the tires. Now, I'm disappointed about the tires, okay, because, Vettel's front ring broke. And he hardly put a spot on them. I mean, to say that they were flat spotted, that is nothing compared to Raikkonen in, what was it, 08 or something like that, 09, somewhere around there, which really, he flat spotted his tyres and then the ring broke. This was the tiniest of flat spots. And for the Ferrari front wing to break on the basis that it's a flat spotted tyre, it was just unbelievable, really unbelievable.
Simos, I got to give it to you. I was trying to figure out what the fuck. What category is he going to go? Complain about the tires, and you actually found one which makes no sense whatsoever. But yeah, I mean, I got to give it to you. Okay, yeah, right, you're right. I mean, I'm not even trying.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy that the front wing should break on such a little flat spot. It really is. And you could see as it was going, as it's going down the straight in slow motion, you can see the wing actually start vibrating as the flat spot's going round, right? And it's that resonance that gets set up in the front wing that actually breaks the front wing. So yeah,
it was actually. I mean, it's really interesting if you see on from the front angle. It starts vibrating the moment that the DRS opens. So I think that was also another factor. Less downforce on the back. I don't know. There was something going on, but yeah, I mean, wow. Yeah, but I'm still waiting for you to complain that the tires are too shiny or black. But yeah, so you find a good one. You're gonna keep the shiny thing for another race. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm always going to have a tire complaint. You know that.
Right.
After all, they are Italian tires, right?
Right. Yeah, and I'll be here, to remind you to make the, you complain about the tires.
Thank you very much. I'll still come up with them on the spot.
Right. I mean, you almost forgot this time, but yeah.
So, yeah. Well, I'll tell you why I'm forgetting. It's because they rebranded them. I mean, we don't know what tires we've even got on the cars anymore. So, although I believe they went a stage harder. So we had C2. Go ahead.
I think they were from C2 to C4 this time.
Oh, okay. I thought it was C5, but okay, no worries. Yeah. So again, I wasn't particularly disappointed because, of course, Bahrain is what's called traditionally known as a green track because of the amount of sand that gets on it. So again, tire wear is pretty insignificant on this track. It's more about the sliding, etc. So yeah, again, we'll see when we get to China, which is really where we'll start knowing a little more answers as to how the cars are going to do in Europe.
Anyway, news are that, and again, we had got to know. We still don't know if the real problem was the cylinder of the H part, but news are that they're going to be racing the same engine in China.
Wow.
Yeah.
That would say it's the turbo, of course.
Well, no, because the turbo is a part that you got to declare if you change. But if it's something in the cylinder like the coil or the injector,
right,
you can change it and still maintain the engine. So I mean, I think we will figure out what it was in China. Okay. Unless they say that they want to change something, for precautionary thing. But I don't know. I mean, that's just something that we know in a short time.
Right. So you don't think it was the heat sink in the
Listen, I have no idea. I can only go with what people say, and during the race they said it was a problem with the H part, and after the race they said it was a problem with the cylinder. So I literally have no fucking idea. It was weird because if you listen to the car, it was struggling to put the highest gear at the end of it. So to me it seemed funny that it was only the hybrid part. He had no hybrid part. It's okay, but the fact that you cannot pull all the RPMs in order for you to get the other one, that was, to me, was a little bit, I don't know.
Really?
It was weird.
That's what I would expect. I mean, if it was lacking in power, I would expect it not to reach top speed.
Yeah, but the thing is that it seems to me that the car was just, stalling at the end. It seems to me that they did not have too many problems in acceleration. Mm-hmm. But middle of the straight, the car just died down.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It was weird, but I mean, we'll see. We'll see. Depending on what they change, we'll pretty much figure out what the fuck was happening.
Yeah, I think one of the team radios said he was 40 kilometers. An hour down on the main straight.
Yeah, that was the Red Bull. When Verstappen answered, they said, "Yeah, they're 40 kph down." Yeah,
that's huge. That is a huge.
Oh yeah, fuck me. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, I feel sorry. We're going to call him Leclerc when he loses. So, yeah, unlucky Leclerc. hopefully it'll be back to the French pastry that we all love, Leclerc.
Yeah.
Other than that, what can I say? Any other messages? We got China in 2 weeks' time, I believe.
Yeah, it's in a couple of weeks.
I love China. I think it's a fantastic racetrack. So
the only thing I'm complaining about China is that that's going to be the 1000 Grand Prix, and I think it kind of sucks that it's the Chinese Grand Prix, right? I mean, they do it already. It's not that the thing caught them by surprise. So I think they should have tried to have the 1000 Grand Prix to be in a track which was a little bit more, I don't know, but a little bit more historical, or I mean, I don't know. There might have been, tracks that could have been used. Well, I don't know how's the weather in the UK for Silverstone. Well, I would not have picked a Spa because it's probably going to be drowning. Monza would have been a good choice. I mean, I would go on and say, even Japan would have been a good choice.
Yeah,
right.
But of course, these things are scheduled more than a year in advance.
Yeah, but I mean,
they probably weren't even thinking about the order of the race, how many there were at the time they started booking them, and they can't change them, of course, because of all the aeroplane flights that get booked, etc., etc. So
they're fucking Americans. They probably didn't thought it until the last minute and
so. Obviously not. And I don't mind. I really like China. I think it's a great place to have it. So that circuit is just amazing as far as I'm concerned, and we're going to see a fantastic race. Provided, well, it doesn't matter, come rain or shine, it's going to be an amazing race, especially with Leclerc being so strong. So everything coming up rosy. I think we've got ourselves an amazing season ahead, where we're not going to be able to rely on the old guard or the normal ways things are. So how fantastic is that?
Yes. No, I'm really excited. It seems to me that those guys can really put a fight. So yeah,
absolutely. And again, as you're saying, the midfield is also amazingly close. So that's going to be a great thing. As soon as Renault get their shit together, I think we're going to see that battle being incredible to watch as well. And that can only be great. Okay. So I'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in. Always appreciate the support. Obviously, we're not on G Plus anymore, so we have a Discord thing that we go to, and it'll be advertised on there. And please subscribe so you can get links. And hopefully, we'll see you, everybody, in 2 weeks' time.
Okay. Cheers.
Ciao. Ciao, Fabio.
Ciao, ciao.